Which NFL Week 16 spreads are must bets? Welcome, football fans, grid, iron, gamblers, and all of my degenerates. It's Mitch here with my 5 favorite spread picks for Week 16 of the 2025 NFL season. This is the video where I break down my 5 favorite picks versus the spread every week here on Money Mitch, with the goal to help you win some money betting on the NFL. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, and don't forget to head to my Patreon for all of my NFL bets every week of the season. That includes the playoffs. That includes the Super Bowl. All of my bets and more on my Patreon for $5 a month. The link is in the description. Let's go, guys. By the way, don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to Money Mitch for NFL picks and best bets every week of the season. We cover spreads, we cover totals, we cover props, and more. Let's kick it off with my first pick. The first game, the earliest game of my best bets, is on Saturday. So that's the first pick. Chicago, now a 1.5 point favorite at home over the Green Bay Packers. This line has moved from the Packers being a short 1.5 point favorite through 0 to the Bears becoming a 1.5 point favorite. You could nearly call it even, okay? Chicago, the reason I like the Bears in this game. First, it begins with the Packers' injuries. The Green Bay Packers are fundamentally, and that is the key word for this argument, a different team with some of their injuries. Now, I do believe that Christian Watson, the ever-important Christian Watson for the Packers receiving corps, will play, and I'm thankful for that because I do have Watson on multiple fantasy football teams, so I do believe he will play. But there are a couple critical injuries for the Packers beyond Watson that will play a major impact and have a major impact. The first of which you probably know is Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons changes the math for the Packers defense. Now Green Bay simply can't rely on getting to the quarterback with a 4-man pass rush, especially not against the Bears, who have one of the best offensive lines in football, led by Darnell Wright at right tackle, led by Joe Thuney at left guard. This unit can protect, and yes, you know it, they can run the football. I think the Bears have a massive advantage running the football against a Devontae Wyatt-less and now Micah Parson-less offensive line, defensive line matchup. The defensive line of the Packers, they're missing 2 of their 4 best guys, 2 of their front 4, now without Wyatt and Parsons. And that's probably their best interior rusher and their best edge rusher on their defensive line. So a lot less pressure with 4. What does that mean? It changes the way you have to play as a defense and schematically call plays. And in situations, third downs, you can't rely on your 4-man pass rush just to get there, right? You can't just play zone and rush 4 because, well, you're going to have all day back there if you're Caleb Williams. And with how elusive Caleb Williams is, he's going to be very comfortable, and eventually Ben Johnson is going to scheme someone open downfield. So you have to be a little bit more challenging defensively in terms of maybe we have to play more man coverage. Maybe we have to blitz a little bit more to tighten those windows and to slow down Caleb Williams in this game. So when we look at the Packers, their secondary is not really capable of playing a lot of man coverage. Now, it does help the Packers that Rome Odunze and Luther Burden are out for the Bears. But the Bears still have 2 guys that I think can get open and separate at a high level. And that's DJ Moore and their rookie tight end, Colston Loveland, who I expect to have a big game here. I think he's going to see a lot of targets, whether it be in line at tight end or whether it be in the slot as a receiver. I think they'll move him around and make a lot of plays with Colston Loveland out of Michigan. But I also think that the Bears are going to be able to run the ball because no Parsons, no Wyatt. That also hurts their run defense. The Bears are an excellent running football team, and I expect that to give the Packers just all-around fits. I think when it comes to early downs, they're going to struggle to stop the run. I think when it comes to later downs, it's going to hurt their pass rush without this personnel. And I think Hafley's going to have to be very creative on a short week without his defensive linemen. And then you couple that with the fact that, okay, you might not have one of your key safeties in this game, Williams, who is one of the better run-stopping safeties in the league. He's very involved close to the line of scrimmage. He makes a lot of great tackles in the box for this team. So tackling DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monongai, that's going to be more of a challenge without Williams lurking in that box for the Packers. And it changes the way they play their big nickel package. It changes their personnel again. So typically the Packers like to play 3 safeties on the field. Typically they like to rush 4. Well, it fundamentally changes when you have injuries to guys like Williams, who is a safety. Now you might have to go deeper into your depth chart at linebacker and or safety. Without Parsons, you can't get quick pressure with 4. You have to blitz. You might have to play man. The Packers aren't great at man. They're still going to get beat in that category. And then you've got Ben Johnson that if you play zone and you sit back there, the way that he's so good at just scheming guys open, Caleb's going to have guys running free against zone eventually without a great pass rush against a great offensive line. So really, it just feels like back-breaking injuries for this Packers defense, whether it be the run game, whether it be the pass game. I kind of feel like the Bears are going to find success. And then on the other side of things, we're talking about a Bears defense that it's not 100% healthy. They do have some linebacker injuries still, but they've got a pretty decent secondary. I really like their safeties. I think that Brisker's played well. The veteran, Byard, has played fantastic. CJ Gardner-Johnson has played really well since joining the team. Jalen Johnson is back and healthy, which does help. And when you look at Green Bay, they have injuries on offense. Josh Jacobs is beat up. I'd lean towards Josh Jacobs finding his way to play and being in this big game for his Packers team where he's really tough. But I don't think he's near 100%. So he's not as explosive or as game-changing as the typical Josh Jacobs you would see against a pretty lackluster run defense of the Chicago Bears. Christian Watson will play, but Christian Watson is also probably not 100%. And Christian Watson's been on a tear, especially against the Bears. I think he had multiple long touchdowns. So, and I think the Bears will have a better plan this time around against the Packers. First time around, they were a little too aggressive. They blitzed a little bit too much. They tried to get away with playing some zero blitz calls, and they just got burnt by Watson like time after time, and even Bo Melton beat them down the field. And then without Zach Tom, the Packers likely without their right tackle, Elton Jenkins, their center, is already out long term. So that's potentially their 2 best offensive linemen that are missing from this game. So they're missing Tucker Kraft. Josh Jacobs and Christian Watson will play probably, but they're both beat up. So that's their best tight end gone, their best receiver banged up, their best running back banged up, their best tackle not playing probably, their best interior lineman not playing for sure, their best interior D lineman not playing for sure, their best edge rusher and player, Micah Parsons, not playing, one of their critical run stoppers at safety not playing. It's just too much to overcome in a game that is very close, divisional matchup, excellent coaching staff on the other side, on the road. Green Bay is much weaker defensively inherently on the road. They're a top 3 defense at home, but we've seen all year the trends have indicated they've given up a lot of points on the road, right? You look at the Cardinals or the Packers Cowboys, or even the Steelers put up some points. Like, a bunch of teams on the road have found ways to move the ball against the Packers, okay? But at home, they've been that much better. The Bears already put up 20 when they had Parsons, and they were healthy. And they were healthy on offense, and they were controlling the ball. The Bears ran the ball well in the first game. And if you guys don't remember, if Caleb Williams finds the correct throw on 4th down to DJ Moore or just runs the ball himself, that likely goes to overtime that game in Green Bay. So I like everything about this really for the Chicago Bears here. I think that this is a Packers team that is reeling because of injuries, and Chicago is in a great spot to take advantage of that, even with a couple receivers and playmakers missing. I still expect this game to put up some points because I am not a huge fan of the Chicago D-line or their run defense, but I think injuries to the O-line should help Chicago get some pressure. Chicago is a turnover-led defense. They make a lot of plays, and Jordan Love, he's prone to give the ball to the other team a couple times, as we've seen last week against Denver. So I think Chicago takes advantage. I think Chicago wins. I think Chicago covers 1.5 points at home. The next game that I want to discuss, we're going to stay in the NFC North a little bit here. The Detroit Lions laying 7 at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the reason I like this is, I think, both psychological, but then also physically on the football field. I think Detroit is a challenging matchup in this spot against Pittsburgh. Detroit's at home, first of all, where they put up, it feels like 30 to 34 points a game, maybe even sometimes a 40-burger. The Lions are a different caliber team at home. Even their defense at times does have some really stellar performances at home. I thought they played pretty well against Dallas a couple weeks back. They showed up in a primetime spot against Tampa Bay. Their defense does sometimes tend to play a lot stiffer at home, and they play stickier in coverage, and they don't tend to get as many calls go against them at home, if you guys notice. But also, I think the Detroit offense is just that much better at home because Goff is in his dome. Goff is comfortable. Goff can control the offense at the line and make his checks and his audibles, and he can have full command with the crowd on his side. So Detroit is that much better at home. But then I think psychologically this game means very little to Pittsburgh. They're coming off a really impressive Monday Night Football win where I was actually really impressed by their offense. I thought Aaron Rodgers looked really crisp. I thought he looked really in control, and I thought they looked really balanced. And they made their plays defensively against a frigid Tua, who now has been benched because of that performance, not surprisingly. But I look at the Steelers, and they don't have to win this game. Like, the only game that really matters for the Steelers is Week 18 against the Ravens. And that game may not matter depending on what happens, I believe, with the Patriots and Ravens. But that game is the season, essentially. So if the Steelers, they could just rest TJ Watt another week, which they're likely to do. Nick Herbig's beat up. They're probably going to rest him. They have like their 3rd or 4th left tackle in for this game. That's going to be pretty tough against Aiden Hutchinson and Detroit's pass rush at home. And every way, shape, and form, this is kind of a difficult matchup for the Steelers in a football stance and a football perspective. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, Pittsburgh's run defense is pretty spotty, and unless they sell out to stop your run, they can't really do it. You can't really sell out to stop the Detroit run because then you're leaving big openings in the middle of the field for Amon-Ra St. Brown or vertically for Jameson Williams. So teams can't really sell out to stop Gibbs as effectively as they can stop other running backs, let's say like Devon Achane, because Tua can't actually throw the ball past 5 yards. But this is perfect conditions. This is in a dome. There's no wind. It's not cold. So the Steelers can't get away with playing that style. TJ Watt's out, so a lack of a pass rush against Jared Goff. Jared Goff picks you apart when he has time, and I don't think they can match up in man-to-man. I think when you play zone, Jared Goff can just pick you apart schematically and just, 5 yards. Okay, then all of a sudden he'll take his check down to Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll make 10 yards out of that and make a guy miss. Then you've got a 16 to 20-yard gain to Jameson Williams on a deep crossing route. I think this is just a really difficult matchup from a personnel stance where Detroit's much faster, much more electric offensively. And then Detroit's defense, they like to play sticky man coverage. They play physical at the line of scrimmage. They like to stop the run and pack the box. Well, Pittsburgh, they like to throw what? Like dink and dunk passes. If a team's already in the box, they're there to stop that and tackle. And Detroit plays a physical brand of ball on defense. They kind of force you to throw the ball downfield and make tight window throws. The only real guy that can make those plays on Pittsburgh is DK Metcalf. So I just think Detroit can have a lot more control on offense. I think they're going to have balance on offense. I think they're going to have big explosive gains through the air and on the ground. I think they're just going to be too much for the Steelers. And I don't think the Steelers are going to be going all out to win this game on a short week after they just looked really good on Monday night. They're feeling themselves, and they know that the season, the playoffs, it comes down to the Ravens game. It doesn't come down to this game. They're not going to be really, I think, all in for this effort. So I think Detroit needs to win this game to make the playoffs. For any hope to make the playoffs, they need to keep on winning. So I think they put the foot on the gas. They beat down Aaron Rodgers, which Dan Campbell has done a couple times already throughout his tenure, late in his Green Bay career, Aaron Rodgers. And then you look at how Detroit played against him at that time in those moments. I think Detroit knows how to handle Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to be able to move the football. I think they're going to be able to possess the football. I think they're going to be able to create explosives. I think their defense is a good matchup for the Steelers offense. And I think Detroit takes care of business in this one. They win, they cover, and they continue their season to the next week. Our next pick is going to be the Minnesota Vikings -2.5 on the road at the New York Giants. This game, to me, is, I think, a simple handicap of two teams being on a different tier, in my opinion. I view the Vikings as near like the 20th best team in the league, and I think the Giants are closer to the bottom barrel, 28, 29 best team in the league. And, the Giants are competing for the first overall pick in the draft, and the Vikings are competing for their future of, is J.J. McCarthy our quarterback? So I think both teams have a different narrative supporting them and surrounding them. I think Minnesota is fighting and playing hard for the reason I just suggested. Like, Kevin O'Connell's trying to see if JJ can be the guy. And we've seen the Vikings kind of progress, right? We saw them against the Commanders. They absolutely destroyed them at home. Then we saw them in a tough spot, a primetime game in Dallas. Dallas' season on the line. And they beat Dallas pretty convincingly, actually. And their defense played exceptionally well. And yes, they've put a couple players on IR. They know they're not going to the playoffs. Jonathan Grenard, Josh Metellus, they're saving them for next year. But I still look at this Minnesota team, and they're much more talented than the Giants. I mean, their O-line, it's pretty solid, and I don't think that the strength of the Giants, their pass rush, will be able to overwhelm this Vikings offensive line. Most importantly, because the Giants have the worst run defense in the league, and one of the worst I've ever seen. I think Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are going to be able to run the rock, and when the Vikings have a run game in balance, that really helps their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, because he's going to be in comfortable second and third down situations with a great play caller who can give him very comfortable and easy play calls and open windows to throw the ball, very much like he did against Dallas. And I think it's going to be a lot like Dallas, where it's not a very good defense. I think the receiving core of the Vikings can win a lot of their matchups vertically down the field. JJ, I think, is underrated. I think a lot of people look at him and how he started this season, and they're still looking at that JJ, but I think the last couple of weeks, he's been more in rhythm. He's gained more confidence. Who would have thought that a 22-year-old rookie quarterback essentially would gain confidence and get better as the season goes on under a great coach with a great set of weapons and offense? Like, yeah, he's getting better, obviously. He's not Jamarcus Russell, as people thought. So, yeah, he's better. And honestly, you could make an argument he's better than Jackson Dart. So you might be getting the better quarterback here with a much better team, and you're certainly getting the better defense. The Vikings have Brian Flores, a very good scheme. Still a good front seven. Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Dallas Turner. They're still there to stop the run of the Giants and to be able to get to the quarterback. And I think Flores is going to change the picture, show a lot of creative looks and blitzes for a rookie quarterback that I could see being overwhelmed even at home. So I really hate, a rookie going against Brian Flores. So for our bet, I really love Brian Flores taking that scheme, that defense, that coordinator against. And especially because, guys, consider that Brian Flores nearly got the job with the Giants. Remember the Brian Flores, Bill Belichick, Brian Daboll fiasco tech situation? Yeah, so Brian Flores might have some unique motivation for this one, especially considering he could be up for the job. Just going to put that out there. But yeah, so Flores, I think, is going to confuse this rookie quarterback. The Giants don't have weapons. The Vikings do have weapons. They're both young, kind of out of whack, wacky quarterbacks that can make plays physically but also make mistakes. And I just feel like Jackson Dart, is he going to protect himself eventually? Like, is he going to, at what, they have 2-3 wins? Is he going to put himself running through a brick wall again? I don't know. So I look at this game, and I think the Giants are completely over this season. I think they're done. I can't trust their run defense. I think the Vikings are the much better team, much more talented, much better coaching staff. every way around. So I like the Vikings under a field goal to win this game and cover. They have more to play for here. They have to establish J.J. McCarthy as their guy, and I think they will with another win. Our fourth pick of the week is going to be the Buffalo Bills, laying 10. I prefer 10, obviously, over 10.5 here, on the road at Cleveland. This is one where a lot of people would look at it and be like, that's a double-digit spread at Cleveland, where Cleveland's usually good at home, great defense, right? A lot of people would think, oh, it's going to be a grinder for the Bills. I just kind of think it's going to be a slow but sure beatdown of the Browns. That's what I see. First of all, Cleveland's offense is inept. They don't have an offensive line. They have numerous veterans that are starters on their team that probably don't want to play, but are also beat up, like Joel Bitonio and Jack Conklin, and the list goes on. These guys are probably not going to play. So they're missing 2, 3, 4 starters on their offensive line. There's multiple playmakers, including David Njoku, that probably won't be playing in this game. So weaponry is depleted. Offensive line is depleted. You have Shedeur Sanders, who right now is on pace to be one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen. He is going to take bad sacks, hold the ball. You have a Sean McDermott defense, a really good zone defensive team that's going to show different things. Their safeties are going to rotate. They're going to play different hybrid coverages that he's never seen before. He's very prone to throwing it to the other team so far in his career. I could see him holding the ball, not being sure of what he's seeing. It's a very simple Browns offense. The Bills are going to be able to rally and tackle those screen passes that the Browns love, because the Bills are very, aware. Like, their linebackers are very instinctive and they see things well, especially when Matt Milano's on the field, which he is. And I think the Bills are going to ride that momentum wave that they created against the Patriots in the second half. I thought they played really, really well defensively against Drake May and the Patriots in the second half. And yes, you can run on the Bills, but the Browns' run game is not very good. And everyone knows that's their only way to move the ball. I don't think that McDermott is just simply going to let the Browns run the ball. So early in the game, there's going to be packed boxes. Packed boxes probably leading to a couple blitzes and sacks on Shedeur Sanders. And it's not like the Browns have a scary receiving core either, to where the Bills are going to be super scared of them beating them over the top. Christian Benford could also return for this game, quite frankly, for the Bills. And then on the other side, the Browns have been a little susceptible to the run the last couple of weeks, and the Bills are arguably the best under center running team in the NFL. James Cook has been unreal. Josh Allen can run the ball. You know what they can do off play action with their heavy formations and their tight ends, attacking the middle of the field. And the Bills are unique in that way, where a team that's built like a traditional defense like Cleveland, where they like to rush for, maybe sometimes blitz, they like to play man coverage, but they're built through their strength of Denzel Ward and their perimeter corners, and they're maybe a little weaker at safety. So the Bills kind of have their best weapons in the middle of the field. Their running backs, their tight ends, and Shakir. And these are the spots where you want to throw against Cleveland. You don't really want to throw on the perimeter. You want to throw in the middle of the field. I think that Josh can take off and run when Cleveland does go man on big third downs. I feel like they can run the ball pretty well in this game. And the Browns have a terrible special teams. They constantly turn the football over. Their offense constantly creates short fields for their defense, and their defense just eventually wears down. And I think that's what's going to happen. Bills will have time of possession. They'll control the game. And I really do feel like the Bills are about to hit this switch where they're about to go into playoff mode. They kind of did in that second half against the Patriots. I think they're about to go on a bit of a run as we get to the playoffs to build that momentum. They play the Eagles next week. I think they want to be on their P's and Q's. Dot their I's, cross their T's. I think they'll be ready for this game. I think that 10 is simply not enough points. It's probably the biggest discrepancy at the quarterback position that you've seen all year. Shedeur Sanders, Josh Allen. I'm taking Josh Allen to beat Shedeur by more than 10. Our fifth and final pick for our best bets versus the spread in Week 16 is the New England Patriots plus a field goal, 3 points, at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I think this is completely wrong. I think this spread should be the reverse. First of all, New England is 11-3 and Baltimore is 7-7. And I don't usually typically lead arguments with that, but that's just first and foremost. But I think what's most important here is that the Baltimore Ravens are kind of being treated like the Chiefs. Everyone's expecting them to turn it on or be something that they were in the past that they quite frankly are not now. They are not the same team they were last year or the year previous. They have not been that team all year. Actually, if you look at the Ravens when they've played teams with a winning record this year, so good teams, they are 1-6 on the season. 1-6. The only game that they won was at Chicago. Or was it even at Chicago? But they played the Bears. It might have been at home. But they didn't even have Lamar. So Lamar, against good teams, has not won a single game. The most recent was against Pittsburgh, who I don't even think is a good team. And remember, they lost to Pittsburgh. So everything everyone is kind of basing the Ravens off right now is, the mystical figure Lamar Jackson that has not shown up all year. And their win against the Bengals, who, Joe Burrow was absolutely horrendous. He clearly looked like he didn't even want to play. And the Bengals were already eliminated from the playoffs, and they have the worst defense in football. When you really dive into that game, the Bengals had 39 minutes of possession in that game and moved the football in the game. And when you even look at the Ravens only had 15 first downs against the worst defense in the league, the Cincinnati Bengals, and they had 317 yards against the Bengals in that game. That was the lowest amount of yards that the Bengals have allowed all season. So people are building up this Ravens team on Sunday Night Football against the Patriots like they are the team from a year ago or 2 years ago when they're 1-6 against good teams. They're looking like they're coming off a nice, impressive win, but their offense only scored 17 points and had 15 first downs against the worst defense in the league. They had a pick six, and the Bengals 3 or 4 different times drove down the field and turned it over or took a terrible sack. Like, Joe Burrow had the worst game I've ever seen him play. And you look at Lamar in that game, despite only having 12 passing attempts, he was sacked 4 times and threw an interception. Like, he still is not playing at the level that you would expect from Lamar Jackson. So I look at this team and I just think they're overrated. I don't think they're on the Patriots level. The Patriots do have critical injuries, including left tackle Will Campbell, but they've been pretty good on the offensive line. That was certainly not the problem against the Bills. Milton Williams has been a bigger loss for them against the run. And if the Ravens do keep this close and competitive, it will be because Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell can run the football. But Mike Vrabel knows Derrick Henry, first of all. And second of all, he's beaten Lamar multiple times and has kind of had Lamar's number in his career. Also, I would say that Mike Vrabel has been a great underdog coach and specifically a great bounce back candidate in these games against the spread. That's been constant throughout his career in Tennessee and New England to be able to get his team back and focused. We even saw it against Pittsburgh, their last loss, where they came out and beat the absolute piss out of the Panthers, who have just as good of a record as the Ravens. But again, the Ravens, because of their logo, people think they're a different team. Their offense has struggled in the red zone all year. They're 31st in the league, so the Patriots' 32nd red zone defense might not quite have as many issues this week. They're 24th on third down. That's where the Patriots should be able to get off the field because they do have better corners than the Ravens have receivers. And they have a weak O-line. They are giving up sacks constantly. They have a weak D-line. They're one of the worst pure four-man pass rushes in the league. Drake May has been the best quarterback against the blitz this season. So if the Ravens do decide to blitz, he's going to create explosive plays. And the Patriots have been running the ball better as well. I think people are getting last week's result way wrong about New England. New England was in command, in the lead, and they let it slip through their fingers against the best player in the league, Josh Allen. And the Bills are much better than the Ravens. The Patriots are now in a spot where I think they're going to have to try to prove the world wrong, and I think they will. I think the wrong team is favored. I'm going to take my Patriots +3 to win this game outright. I would take the money line. I think the Ravens are overrated. I think Drake May has a big bounce back game. No precipitation, no snow, clear skies in Baltimore, and they show up big on Sunday Night Football. Despite the injuries, the Patriots get it done. Give me New England +3 as the 5th and final best bet. There it is, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't be a jabroni and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.